seat. So today's class is about just bringing some fire into our being, because no matter where you land in the current situation, politics in the United States, we have work to do, and we have work to do no matter what candidate we voted for, who's elected, because that's still unclear. And in Patanjali's 8 limbs, the 8 limbs of yoga are the yamas, the abstinences, the niyamas, the observances, asana, which we practice quite often, the postures, pranayama, breath control, pratihara, which is withdrawal from the senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and samadhi, which is total absorption. And I get this, I think some of you also get Richard Rohr's daily meditation. He's a Jesuit priest, and he's had a lot of good stuff out the last couple of days. But he talks about the tragic gap in our country. And one side of the tragic gap is the hard realities of life and of our times that either crush our spirit or leave us feeling hopeless. That's one side. And on the other side of the tragic gap is our deep, deep human belief in possibility for a better life, for a life where everyone is taken care of, for justice, for mercy. And he calls on us to engage in faithfulness. So it's not enough to be right. It's not enough to be just efficient. It's not enough to be just effective and positive. We need to stand up and be a faithful people. And if we're on a spiritual path, and yoga is that, it's a spiritual path. It doesn't say what religion you have to believe in, but it's a spiritual path, and we are in a spiritual crisis. If we are engaged in the path, then we have the responsibility to live as faithful people, as faithful warriors. So thinking about that, I was thinking about a practice today where we would test our fire, test our resolve. So it will look like some flow, some vinyasa, and some holding, and testing that fire. Let's begin, though, just very briefly with closing our eyes down and practicing the pratyahara. And the pratyahara is the withdrawal from the external and moving into the internal. So lots going on, lots of noise outside of ourselves right now. We know we don't practice just for our own ego enhancement or our own personal benefit. We practice for something bigger. But let's start by coming inside. So close your eyes down if that feels comfortable for you, or soften your gaze. You could be sitting or lying down. And if movement allows you or helps you to come to a place of more inner grounding, then you could move a little bit. If breath helps you, if the anchor of the breath helps you, then take some deep long breaths. And eventually, please make your way to your back if you're not already there. And continue this inward movement with some small movements. So we've got lots of choices of things we do. We usually start here on our back. So take a couple minutes on your own just to move through some subtle movements in the body, really checking in and coming into a deep embodiment. And then we'll all bring the soles of our feet to the floor, bend through your knees, like you're in a position of comfort, arms out to the side. And then just press into your feet, lift your hips slightly, and lengthen your tailbone down away from your shoulders. Set yourself back down onto the floor. So you really feel a lot of length through your spine. And then just a few pelvic tilts here. So draw pubic bone away from navel. And on your exhale, draw your pubic bone back towards your navel. Couple rounds here, just feeling into your low back. And then coming back to the neutral position, hands alongside your body, palms down, press into your feet, lift your hips and let your arms come behind you. Backs of your hands land on the floor behind you, and exhale, bring everything back down. And begin to coordinate your movement with your breath. So this is the dynamic bridge, and this is a great place to really let the breath contain the movement. So as you inhale, pressing into the feet, lifting hips, hands come behind, and the inhale lasts longer than the movement. And then exhaling everything back down. The exhale lasting longer than the movement. Do a few rounds here, lengthening inhale and exhale, and containing the movement in the inhale and exhale. And then the next time you land, everything back to the floor. Take the feet out a little bit wider to the outside edges of your mat. Bring your arms to the goalpost position. Allow your knees to move back and forth. One hip will lift, really in swing that leg across midline so you feel that hip lifting and an arch in your back. And again, let your breath contain the movement. And so the inhale brings the knees back up to center, and the exhale, you draw your knees down to the other side, keeping the edge of each foot connected to the floor. So as you come to the left, the outside edge of the left foot, inside edge of the right foot, pressing into the floor as you sweep the knees back and forth. And then once you've done an even number, or you feel like you've done an even number, bring your knees back up to center. Bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little bit of a squeeze here. And as you squeeze your knees into your chest, can you release your hips back down to the floor? So you're really lengthening through your spine. And then hands on the knees, take your knees wide in a circle and back in to the body, wide and outside, and then draw the knees back in towards your chest. So big circles with the knees. Again, really let the movement be contained in the breath. Inhale brings the knees out. And the exhale, bring the knees together and into the chest. And then reverse, so bring your knees away from your chest and together, and then out, and then back in close to the chest. Or if you were going in this direction, I guess opposite direction. Just reverse the circling. And then take both feet to the floor. Keep your left knee bent. Extend your right leg towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, just draw your knee down towards the armpit, towards the right armpit. Inhale, straighten the right leg out. Exhale, bring your knee in towards your chest or armpit. And just a little vinyasa there. Working into your hip, your knee, your ankle. And opposite leg either bent or could be on the floor if that felt okay in your low back. You could extend the opposite leg. And then switch and just do the other leg. And then from here, you can either roll to one side or cross at the ankles, come up briefly to your seat. Crossing your legs in front of your body. And just inhale, one arm up and over, the other hand just rests on the floor. Just back and forth a few times here. Inhaling, reaching, opening through the side body. So bring one hand or forearm to the floor, opposite arm reaches up and over. Just moving through your side body, opening the side body. And then uncross the legs and take the feet over to one side and come either all the way up to standing now, or you could sit on your heels if you'd like to do this part on your heels. But otherwise, we'll just come right on up to standing. And inhale, sweep arms up. And exhale, let your hands just come through heart center. Do a couple of rounds just with the arms. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. Fixing my And then reach the arms up, interlace your hands, bring your hands behind your head, and on your next exhale, press your arms out. If you're standing, press your hips in the opposite direction. And then inhale, hands rest behind the back of the skull. Exhale, press hands in one direction. If you're standing, hips in the opposite direction. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale here, elbows pointing forward, and exhale, press out in the opposite direction. And then coming back to center. Now, if you are on your knees, please go ahead and stand. We'll have the arms down to the sides. And as you inhale, now come up onto your toes, opposite hand to opposite shoulder, and exhale, release. Feet come down, hands touch your thighs. Inhale, sweep up, opposite hand to opposite shoulder, come up on your toes, and exhale, release. Couple that way. And the next time you come down, just to standing, interlace your hands again behind your head, elbows point forward. Take the hips about, the feet about hip distance apart. This will be the inhale. And on the exhale, you're gonna come into a deep squat and press your palms away from yourself. Inhale back up to standing, hands behind the head. Exhale, deep squat, press the arms and hands away. Inhale, stand up, widen the stance slightly. Exhale, come into a deep squat and press your hands away. Inhale, hands come behind the head, elbows point away. Exhale, deep squat. Inhale, come on up, widen the stance even more. Exhale, deep squat. Inhale, press up. Exhale, deep squat. Feel the work of your legs. Feel the navel pulling up and in to engage. Good, one more time, deep squat. And then inhale, press up. Now release your hands to your sides and just move through your hips in one direction and the other direction. And then coming to the top of your mat, come to Tadasana at the top of your mat. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. You can take your hands to the block if you have one, or to your shins, really lengthen through your spine. Exhale, fold, take your hands to the mat, step your feet back, downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths here in the downward dog, squeezing your legs, squeeze the legs, kneecaps up. And then rock over to the left side, tense your right fingers and bring your right foot between your hands. And then heel toe the right foot out so that both hands can come inside your foot, and circle your hips in one direction. And the opposite direction. Coming back to center, drop your left knee to the floor. Right hand stays on the inside of your right foot. Inhale, sweep your left arm up in a twist. Exhale, bring your left elbow down to your right hand. Inhale, sweep the left arm up in a twist. Exhale, bring your left elbow to your right hand. Try one more. And then both hands to the inside of your right foot. Turn your back toes under. Heel toe your right foot back to the center of your mat so that your hands are on either side. And then with your hands on your thigh or not, press up into crescent lunge. Reach the arms up. Tailbone is heavy. Keep lifting the back hamstring towards the ceiling, so building some fire here. And then as you reach your hands, think of the middle finger and the ring finger really reaching towards the ceiling, leaving space in your neck though, and then exhale your hands down around your front foot and step back, downward facing dog. Inhale into high plank, staying here, dropping your knees, but draw the navel up and in. Draw hands towards feet, feet towards hands, and feel the heat building here. Press back, downward facing dog. Rock over to the right and tense your left fingers so that you can bring your left foot between your hands. Heel toe the foot out, hands inside the left foot, drop your back knee. Oops, sorry. Keep the back knee lifted. We circle first through the hips. So circling the hips in one direction, back knee is lifted here. And the other direction. And then drop the back knee. Keep the left hand right inside the left foot and inhale, sweep the right arm up. Exhale, bring your right elbow to your left hand. Inhale, sweep the right arm up, a little balancy. Exhale, bring your elbow to your back of your hand. One more time. And then both hands to the mat. Turn the back toes under and reach the back leg off the floor and heel toe your left foot in. So now hands are on either side of the front foot and either press into your thigh with your left hand or just come on up with the strength of your legs into crescent lunge. Lift the back heel and lift the back hamstring towards the ceiling. Feel the strength of your standing posture here, building some heat. And then you'll reach the fingertips towards the ceiling. That's the inhale. Exhale down around the front foot. Step your feet back, downward facing dog. Squeeze the legs. And then come forward, high Dandasana. Lifting the back, the upper back towards the ceiling, drawing hands towards one another, drawing feet towards hands. And then lower through Chaturanga or drop your knees and lower down. Nice, and we'll come right to Sphinx. So elbows underneath shoulders. Drop your head towards your chest. Perhaps a few side to side movements here with the head, just giving the back of the neck a little stretch and lengthening. And then bend your knees and take your feet around in circles. Your feet are going around in circle here. So you'll feel your thighs, your legs, doing a little internal and external rotation. Change the direction of the circles. And then come back to center and come all the way down onto your belly, forehead on the floor, arms alongside your body. Draw your navel up and in, press your pubic bone into the floor. Lift your hands, so wrists a little bit higher than the shoulders, but keep lifting the head of the arm bones. So keep lifting the shoulder tops up. Press, 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 and then press pubic bone into the floor. Lift your head and your shoulders. Lift your legs. You could squeeze the legs together here and get your ankles in as close as possible, really firing up the hamstrings, but feel the heat building here. Feel the work of this locust pose. Slowly release and turn one cheek to the mat. You could softly move your hips back and forth. And then turning in the other direction, letting your hips just move softly back and forth. And then come back to center, forehead on the floor. Again, gather the tailbone's gonna pull down. You're gonna press your pubic bone into the floor. Gather the navel like you could slide your hands right underneath your tummy and feel a little space there. Good. And then lift arms off the back. You could keep your arms reaching back, or now if you wanted a little bit more work, you could bring them out to a T position. Pressing your pubic bone into the floor. Lift your head and shoulders. Lift your legs. Gaze is just right off the front of your mat, keeping the back of your neck long. And then bend your elbows, take your hands to your low ribs, press yourself up to table. Take a few cat-cows here. Let that heat that you just worked up, let it kind of spread through your body here with a little spinal undulation. Then turn the toes under, press hips up and back, downward facing dog. Walking your feet up to your hands. Inhale to a halfway lift. And exhale to a fold. Hands on hips, elbows in, press up, hinging at the waist. And then line yourself up with the long edge of your mat. So feet as wide as your wrists, close there too, okay? And then interlace your hands behind your sacrum and bowing forward. Let your arms come off your back with the help of gravity. And then if you can, keep your arms reaching off your back. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Now, in this position, somewhere in between, all the way folded over and maybe a halfway, bend the right knee and draw yourself over to the right in a side lunge. Press into that leg firmly, come back to center, bend the left knee and draw yourself over to the left. press there. And come back to the right. Do the work. Feel the heat as you move back and forth, side to side. Coming back to center now, hands to hips. Hinge up at the waist. Turn the right foot out. Turn the right foot out. And take the left foot to the other edge of your mat. Turn your left heel out. So a very wide warrior one stance. And then bending through the front leg, turn shoulders to line up with the short edge of your mat. Inhale to reach your arms up. Bend through your back knee and reestablish the back heel. Squeeze the legs. Squeeze the legs. Reaching up through the fingertips. Good. Now, you're going to bend, fold forward as you straighten through the front leg. You can bring your hands to your waist or to your heart center. If the stance is too long, just shorten it slightly, but keep the left foot out to the left. So you're on your mat, you're using the whole width of your mat here. Front leg straight as you fold into this humble warrior. So we have work to do as warriors, and sometimes our work is, I think of the Dalai Lama, who's been exiled from his country for decades, and he remains a faithful warrior. Now from here, we're going to go into a revolved triangle. So do your best with this. You can bend into your front knee, bring your left hand to your right foot. And then draw the right hip back. Maybe you can extend the right arm up in this revolved triangle. Going for straight, front leg straightening, but you can keep a bend in there if need be. Your gaze could be down at your foot, keep the back of your neck long, and then bring both hands down to the right foot. Both hands down to the right foot. Good. From here, you're going to take 1, 2 hops and just try to lift the back leg. And then left foot by right foot. You're in a forward fold. Now bend the knees. Let your body drape over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, hands to the mat, step or jump back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward, high Dandasana. Exhale, lower through Chaturanga or a modified Chaturanga on your knees. Inhale with your hands just under your shoulders, come into a baby cobra. And exhale, press back into, up through table and back into child's pose. Allow the heat, allow the fire to spread here. Inhale back to table, turn your toes under, press up, downward facing dog. Shift over to the right, tent the left fingers, bring the left foot forward. You're now in the runner's lunge. Take your right foot out to the right side of your mat and turn that foot at 30 degrees or so, 35 degrees, and come up warrior one on this side. So you're using the whole width of your mat with your legs. Bend your back leg and then recommit the back heel. Legs are strong here, reach the arms up. Let your tailbone pull down towards the floor so there's length in your spine. And then we'll come into that humble warrior poses as we bend forward. So you might bring the back leg up, shorten your stance slightly, hands to your sacrum as you fold forward inside the front leg. Just as much work really to be a humble warrior as to be in one of the other warrior poses. Quite a bit of work here. Then we'll bring the right hand to the top of the left foot. Okay, keep a bend in that leg if you need to. Bring your left hand to your hip and revolve here in this revolved triangle. Perhaps stacking shoulders. Keep drawing the left hip back, front leg, draw that hip back. And then you'll take both hands to the front foot and very gingerly step up one step, and then any amount that you can balance on that front foot. If you need to separate your hands, separate your hands. So standing splits. We've been working on this in the inversion class. If you want to bend the front leg and re-extend the upper leg and then straighten the front leg. And then bringing your right foot to the floor. You're in a wide stance, wide forward fold, bend the legs. Hands to your hips, elbows close to one another. Press yourself up to standing. Okay. From here, we're going to go to Vrksasana, to tree pose. So start in the Tadasana and feel the shape of this pose. Feel the strength of your legs. And then placing your weight in one foot. Sit your other foot against your calf on top of that foot or up as high as possible in to the thigh. Draw your navel up and in. Squeeze everything towards midline. When you have that balance, you can interlace your hands and press the hands up and away. And release. And then take the other side. Establishing your footwork first, then bringing the foot to whatever position works. One side might be different than the other. Draw the navel up and in. Tailbone reaches down. Establish that position and then interlace the hands in the opposite orientation and press up. Release. Release your foot. Just open through the hips again. Just a circling one direction, the other direction, and then come to the top of your mat in Tadasana. Inhale, sweep arms up, and exhale, fold through center. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, hands to the floor, step yourself back to downward facing dog. We're going to move from down dog into the side plank. So we'll come on to the left hand first. So you could keep the feet wide here and just turn onto the sides of your feet and come into your plank that way. You can come onto the left foot, bring the right foot in front and lift the hips this way. Okay, you could stack the feet, or you could bring the bottom knee, the left knee. So I've got my left hand out here. We're doing left side, left knee down, and the right leg can just reach out. And this can be your side plank. Keep lifting through the hips. So wherever you land in your side plank, pushing, reaching the hips up towards the ceiling, pulling the lower side waist up towards midline, really working the strength of the obliques. And we'll release back to plank, upward Dandasana. We'll drop to our knees, come to the floor, press into upward facing dog or a cobra. And then turning your toes under and pressing right through chaturanga, or coming up to table. Take yourself back to the child's pose one more time. Feel the spreading across your back, broadening of your upper back. And then we'll come up to table, turn the toes under, press the hips back, downward facing dog. Once more now, going to the other side for side plank. So turning the feet and pressing the hips up. You could play around with maybe even trying to come into Vrksasana. And returning to plank. Once again, lowering to the floor in a way that works for you. Feel the heat. And this time just resting on a little hand pillow. Bending your knees, rocking feet side to side. Releasing the low back, the hips. We're going to come into the bow pose. So bring bend your knees and bring the heels of your feet, the heel of your feet towards your buttocks, and reach your arms back. Now you might take your ankles, you might take your pants. If you have really stretchy pants, that might be helpful. And if you can't reach, don't worry. You can still do the pose as if you're reaching for your feet. As you press your feet, though, into your hands, the strength of your legs helps you lift here. Keep the back of your neck long. Now, if you've got your feet and you want a little bit more fierceness, let the feet go. And it's a bit harder to reach for the feet but not get them. Lift knees off the mat. Hold it, friends. Might be a long time. And then release everything down. Take one cheek or temple to the mat, softly rocking hips back and forth. Other direction as well, with the head just really feeling some stretch in the neck. Coming back to center, take your hands beside your low ribs and press yourself up to table. Just reach your hips back towards your heels now in puppy pose. And gradually just kind of moving now through your hips, swinging hips right, hips left. And then coming back Sitting on the heels, ankles together as much as possible, Vajrasana. Thunderbolt. Take a few breaths here just to integrate. And then option 2, go upside down. And if you don't have a little bit of wall space, or that's not your choice this morning, you could work dolphin pose, or you could put a block underneath your sacrum, lift your legs up in the air in a modification of legs up the wall. But we'll take the short end of the mat into, it's best if you had, I'm going to show this against my cupboards, not the best space. It's really best if you have a wall that's continuous with your baseboard so that you can put your heels up on the wall and come into a short downward dog stance. I can sort of do it here. So pretty short downward dog stance. And this could be where you rest as well. But from here, you'll bend one knee and take your foot about hip distance, and then the other foot, and come into the L shape here. Pressing really firmly with the hands. You could try bringing one leg away as if you were going to go into a handstand. Playing with that, bringing the other leg. And then bending knees, bringing one foot down, other foot down. If you have the wall space, just drop your booty right back to the wall space, resting there in a supported forward fold. And if you don't have or don't want to do that, you could just come right down to sort of a child's pose. But keep the head down just for a few breaths so you don't get too dizzy. Now, if you want to take a second one of those, you can. Press back up to the Vajrasana. And then we'll come to our backs. Just rest for a couple of breaths here. Let everything sort of settle in. Great, and now if you don't have your knees bent, go ahead and bend your knees, take the soles of your feet to the floor. And on your inhale, we're going to press up into the bridge pose. But we're going to come over and come to the right side of our body and reach the left arm up and over. So it's sort of a side bridge. So I'm pressing into my feet, I'm on my right arm, and I'm reaching my left arm up and over. I'll come back to center myself, and then I'll press into my feet, roll over onto my left arm, reach my right arm up and over. Keep lifting the hips. Back to center. Okay. One more time in each direction. You might have migrated on your mat a little bit. I know I did. So press into the bridge and then roll over onto your right side and reach your left arm up and over. Keep pressing the hips up. And come back to center. Reorient. Roll onto the left side arm and you keep lifting the hips. And reach the right arm up and over. back to center, arms alongside your body. Slowly, slowly lower yourself down one vertebra at a time. Good. Now from here, we'll take one strong bridge. So in a more traditional style. So bending through the elbows, press into your feet here, lift your toes, press into your heels, lift, 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 and scoop your heels back towards your shoulders. So you feel the hamstring working here as well. And then roll one shoulder and the other shoulder blade underneath, interlacing your hands at your sacrum. Release the pinkies. You can release the toes now down to the floor, but feel the engagement of your whole leg. Front of the leg, back of the leg. Reach the hips up. Keep the back of the neck long. And then release your arms up to the ceiling. You come up onto your toes now. Lift your heels and slowly, slowly, slowly roll everything down one vertebra at a time. Now just come briefly to Shavasana. We're not quite there yet. And feel the heat move throughout your body. Feel the heat that you've built moving through your body. And then bending your knees again, take the left ankle onto the right knee for figure 4, supine pigeon. You could pull your knees up in towards your chest or lace your left hand through the space, taking the back of your right hamstring or the front of your right shin, and then really letting the hips settle, 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 settle. If that's not really enough sensation for you, you can release the hands and just really tilt the knees over to the right. I get a lot of sensation when I do that in the piriformis, outer glute muscles. And then switch this up, take the right ankle on top of the left thigh, same thing, pulling your knees into your chest or reaching your right hand through the space and taking the back of your left leg or the front of your left shin. But do allow your hips to settle back down to the floor. So you're really releasing the hips. And if that's not enough sensation for you, you could reach your knees over to the right 4 or 5 inches. Settle right hip back down to the floor if you do that. Coming back to center, and then one more time. We're not to the full Shavasana, but just Shavasana here to integrate. And then stacking your knees over your hips once more. You're going to let the knees fall to the left. Let your whole body roll over to the left. So right hand touches left hand. And then draw your right hand across your body as you open into a twist. So the knees might not stay completely um, stacked evenly, and it's okay. And you could have your gaze up towards the ceiling or over towards your right hand. Scoop your belly over to the right, like you're trying to aim your navel at the ceiling. And then you inhale, right leg up, left leg up. Bring both knees over to the right. Bring your left hand on top of your right hand. And then slide your left hand across the inside of your right arm, across your chest, and open up into a twist. So same thing, knees might not be stacked. They might have come off center a little bit. That's fine. Take your gaze to the ceiling or to the outstretched left hand and scoop your belly towards the left. Then inhale, top leg up, bottom leg to reach. You might squeeze the knees in here, reach the legs up. Anything else you need, but go with intention to the Shavasana. Reaching through one leg and the other leg. Really letting the legs be heavy. Pressing into the back of your head. Tuck shoulder blades under. Palms up towards the sky if possible. Let your feet fall out to the sides. Arms traditionally away from the body, but you could rest your hands on your belly and just connect with your breath and your will there, and the third chakra. The solar plexus, where the fire is. Release your jaw, tension there. See if you can release the tension between your brow and the mental grasping. We've all had a lot of mental grasping in the last few days. Let that go. Inviting a smile across your mouth, the inside of your mouth, across your eyes, and across your heart. Please stay in Shavasana as long as you like. Even when things are not always as we like them, let's put a hand on our heart space and give gratitude for anything this morning in your life that you can feel grateful for. My prayer is that the discipline of this path, the beauty of this path will not just be self-serving, but that we will practice for justice for all, for mercy and compassion in the world, for fighting the good fight, the things that we firmly believe in, for the uplifting of all humanity, all sentient beings, and our planet that we call home. Namaste, friends.